there's a lot of agents that are struggling. So what's the biggest thing that you're seeing that they're doing wrong right now?
So, I mean, this is independent of, we were kind of talking about what we see happening right now with technology and the capital being infused. But
right.
The question you're asking to me, I've seen my entire career. And part of it is the industry's fault, because we've always described real estate as this like super flexible, easy way to make money, work on your own terms. That's all BS. Because I am friends with all the top agents in the country, and they're the most inflexible, schedule-ridden, pragmatic, systems-oriented, cold calling, prospecting machines I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Right. So the people who succeed in this industry treat it like a business.
Right.
Right. It's either your practice, which means you are a solo agent with a couple people, or you build a big team. And both are cool. Both are cool and good if you're happy with it and you're servicing your customers right. I think a solo agent with maybe an assistant or one buyer's agent, it could be even better experience than a large team. I actually wholeheartedly believe that, but you got to take it seriously. You got to treat it like a business. Like, do you prospect every single day? And if you don't prospect, do you have a system, whether it's Facebook ads, direct mail, whatever it is, that generates systematic levels of leads and conversion for you to have a sustainable way of earning a living? And so I don't know the statistics to verify it off the top of my head, but the percentage of agents that are struggling today is no different than 5 years ago. It's no different than 10 years ago. We are in an aspirational business, right? HGTV has probably exacerbated the problem over the last 10 years, because it's like, what pisses me off more than anything is the flip your house shows, because I've flipped more homes than most people who are on TV, and I own one of the largest private debt funds on the East Coast. But it's like, even the numbers they put on the screens, like, hey, bought it for 100, put 40 in it, selling it for 160, potential profit of 20. I'm like, that is a lie, right?
So you're telling me they're not making those margins?
No, it's if you bought it for 100, it's 104 with closing costs.
Yeah.
It took 6 months to sell, so there's at least $8,000 in holding costs. So we're at 112, and then at 160, you're telling me you don't have any cost of goods sold between buyer comp, even if the owner is an agent, they're still paying buyer commissions, they're paying concessions, and transfer and recordation. So on that 1 plus 40 is 160 is 20,000 in potential profit. They're really upside down $20,000. They've written a $20,000 check to get out of that deal.
Yeah.
And so that only makes it worse that more people want to come into this industry and are ill prepared, or not. It could be ill prepared because they didn't financially prepare to come into this industry, meaning no one told them the truth that you need to have 12 months reserve in the bank.
Yeah.
Literally your first 6 months. I don't know anyone who made money before their first 6 months. And so a lot of people that are younger want to get into the industry. They're like, hey, I want to get into real estate. I said, great. Go find who do you want to become? Like, go find the icon or agent that you want to be most like in your local town, and offer him or her to work for free. Go work for free for them for 6 months. And what most solid business people will do is like, no need to work for free. I have a position open for talented people, and join their team either as an employee on a salary or as an agent, and they shorten the learning curve dramatically. Yes, you get a much lower split, but you get leads off the bat, and you get technology and training and, all the things that proper teams should offer.
Right.
And so I think too many people aren't willing to kind of eat a little crow for a couple of years, but I would encourage everybody, especially starting out, to join a team, especially like a legit team, because that's a whole nother subject we can go into. I think there's a whole category of teams that I refer to as gangs, because it's just a bunch of agents that kind of work together loosely to maybe get lower splits, but they're not a team. Like,
right.
A team have a central place that is spending real money to generate leads in a systematic form and offer it with technology, systems, and processes and support, right? So it's not just a lead, it's CRM, it's IDX website, it's transaction management. And yes, you should get a substantially lower split than if you were the team lead, but you should be able to do 5-10x the volume. And at the end of the day, that's when I used to run a team, forget the split, but what do you want to make this year? If I hit X, are you happy? Right? I had buyer's agents on my team that made $150,000 a year. my primary listing agent, when the last year we were in business, made like $250,000 with no overhead and no risk.
Right.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So what would keep those
after 7 years? But, we are living through an interesting time, and everything in life is a cycle and a phase. Right now, post-financial crisis, I would say from 2012 and on, we've been living in this age that glorifies entrepreneurship. And I get pretty pissed off about it sometimes because I see a 23-year-old have an Instagram profile that says they're a business coach.
Mm-hmm.
You're not qualified to be a business coach or an expert. You haven't lived long enough. You haven't accomplished, I think the only way you deserve that title is because you did something of meaning, not just took a boot camp, right? And so,
yeah, not just purchased a course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I see it with the realtors. I see realtors who've been at it for 5 or 6 years who, are keynote speakers and coaches and all this stuff. It's like, you have not lived through a financial crisis. You do not know a single price reduction script. You have not actually lived through some shit, right? And so the legit rite of passage of entrepreneurship is getting beat down a couple times. I don't know who to give attribution to. A favorite quote of mine I've had: you cannot make a large fortune until you've first lost a small one, right?
Wow.
It kind of teaches you respect because there's so much YouTube you can watch and books you can read, but you haven't really lived through the experience yet. I remember when I was building my first couple of businesses, someone asked me if I'd ever been sued. And I was like, no, I do everything right. It's like, well, if you haven't been sued, you have not done enough business yet. Like, you haven't had enough at bats. And it was one of those oh shit moments in life where I haven't lived enough until it's like, well, you haven't had enough at bats, right? I remember being on a panel of investors once, and this guy next to me said he's never lost money on a flip. And I was like, I literally stopped him. I was like, you haven't done enough deals. Because in life, you can't underwrite everything. You can't know that there's a crack in the foundation until you open up the walls and you're like, there's a crack in the foundation.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Feel free to check out some of the other videos in this channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another video. Lastly, join our growing Facebook group full of content to help grow your business.